Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Arcadian Red Tea session. Very happy to see everybody on this, at least out here, overcast, slightly rainy morning. By the end of today's session, you're going to understand more about non-known mountains. You're going to understand more about red tea, and this is ancient tree red tea. So, how that relates directly to non-known mountains, you'll have an understanding about. But before we leap into any of that, let's talk about house news, shop news. We still, to date, don't quite have a schedule for the trip. So we're close, we're very close, but we don't have it yet. And so I'm really anticipating by next weekend, I'll be able to announce the dates and the expense of the trip. We're that close. So that's where that stands. Secondly, normally we stay completely within the tea realm. Well, this morning, related to shop news, I have to talk about something I have never had before that is at the top of my list in terms of things that Rob has been working on. He brought in Swedish saffron buns. I'd never heard, never had. This thing, this bun was so good. Just never had it. It really wasn't sweet. It was saffrony and cardamom. Just a fabulous thing that happened in the shop this week. So normally we're not talking about bread on Saturday mornings, but the taste of this is still in my mouth, so I can't resist. All right, let's talk about something else that happened in the shop this week. And this is important because it relates to what you've all learned. It relates to how you actually interact with tea versus how inexperienced people interact with tea. So we had guests or we had customers come up this week, all first timers, and they normally go to some other tea house. I've never heard of it. It's somewhere in the area, and they came in here with a preset thought about how tea should be. And that's fine. And that's their problem because we have lots of people who do that. And they came in here and by the way, we have zero objection to that as a starting point. And we've dealt with that for years and years and years. But what was interesting this time is we gave them the house rules because they sat together and I told everybody, okay, you know, you've got a tea that's 200 degrees. The two of you have teas that are not brewed 200 degrees. They're very different types. Taste your own first. Make an evaluation of your own first before you taste other people's teas. The result, this is not what happened. Not only did it not happen, they in some way insisted that their way of tasting was every bit as valid. So let's break that down a little bit because any way you taste the tea, it is valid. So that statement is okay. What's not okay is this is not standard. They said their way is valid and standard. As soon as you throw standard in there, if you use China as the standard, and we do, answer is was not standard. So when you go to a place like, let me pick any place. We're doing red tea today. Let me go to Yunnan County. And you go to the shop there and they give you samples of tea. Normally, they're in either a little bit larger cup and they don't have you tasting different styles of tea during the same session. In other words, let me give you a little Chiman green, and then I'm going to give you a little Chiman red. The answer is no. That's not what they do. And they do that because they understand that once your palate starts down a journey, having other things that interfere with that journey, and it's not interfere in a bad way, it's they change the journey. So you leave the essence of what you're trying to understand. And if you fancy yourself as a tea connoisseur, and I had the impression that these people did, because when I offered to help, oh no, we know everything. I'm thinking, God, they know more than I do. This is embarrassing. They're coming in my shop and they know more. They know everything. And I'm thinking, all right, let's see what they know. And then they went down this way. So, and again, at home, I don't care what anybody does. You know, if you want to have 5 cups in front of you and drink one after another, I don't care. The boss doesn't care. However, if you're trying to make judgments about tea, if you're trying to learn about tea, there are standards. And the standards have been in place for a long time. And they're in place for a long time because they work. So that occurred this week. And it's a reminder that it's always an uphill battle, because when people go to other places, they're taught other things. And so when people are taught other things, you have to go back. Who's the teacher? Because it's not the people who made the mistake, it's the teacher who made the mistake. So wherever this tea shop was, perhaps the teacher needs some re-education. So at any rate, that was part of what happened this week. So before we actually step into Arcadian, let's talk about one more thing. And this is a subject I've talked about over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And by the way, I should have made a proper introduction. You know, last 3 weeks we did green tea, and you know, we hashed through some beautiful green teas, Dragonwell, Satisfaction, Towering Pine. And now we're on this red tea journey. I believe it's a 6-week journey. This is going to be fabulous. So the question came up during the green tea journey. Okay, who makes the list of the greatest teas in China? And I went through that, and I'm reminded this morning, when you think of red tea on the normal top 10 list, you usually only get Chima as a red tea on that list. Now, some of the most modern lists will also list occasionally Yunnan black or Yunnan red, but that's kind of a nod to a new phenomenon. It's not what the tradition is. The tradition is the bulk and heart of red. And I'm going to have to footnote this, because I have a personal opinion that's different, but I have to give you what the opinion of the masses, the tea masses, or the tea elite, when they were preparing this list is. And that is Cheman County, that county, red tea, standard, top of the red tea world. On many lists, there's also one other red tea, and this is where my heart lies, because in the Wui Mountains and in parts of Fujian, which aren't far from the Wui Mountains, you have beautiful red teas. And actually, when you go to Chiman, really, how did that start again? Let me see here. Who opened that? Oh yeah, some guy from Fujian province moved back to Anhui, Chiman, and then helped start the Chiman tradition. So you actually predate the Chiman tradition in Fujian province. And the Fujian reds are incredible. They're different than the Chiman. And the Cheeman are world famous abroad. They're internationally famous. You know, Queen Elizabeth, when she was alive, loved that. Other potentates in Europe loved the reds from China. So it deservedly has this high reputation. So why am I going on and on about this? Because Arcadian and all the Yunnan reds don't usually get very much credit. Why is that? Let's think again about the history of reds. So Cheeman is pumping out all these reds in the late 1800s, more and more famous. It's great up until 1937, when all of a sudden it's not great. Because the Japanese enter Beijing, and it's like, okay, the writing is in the tea leaves. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I mixed those metaphors up. Well, anyway, you catch where I am. The Japanese are probably going to come to Anhui, Shima. We better get out. And they sent tea experts as far away from Anhui as they could. They ended up in Yunnan, ended up actually in Fengcheng, and started the Yunnan red tradition in Fengcheng. So again, all of you are alert because details matter. What detail matters here? So I might ask you this question, rhetorical. Were they actually producing red tea in Yunnan pre-Fengcheng? And the answer is yes. But it wasn't famous, and it was very inconsistent, and it was fledgling, so to speak, and it wasn't really exposed much to the world because it's remote, but it was being produced. So it's not like it was zero before Anhui came to Fengcheng, but it was less, and it was a different technique than what they were doing in Montclair. So these things are very important to understand as the basis for how we talk today. All right, we're almost to Nano. We're not quite there yet, but we're very close. Nanoa is the mountain from where Arcadian comes from. Is Nanoa famous in tea elite world? It's very famous. Why? It's famous for particularly its raw black. It also produces fully fermented. The tea leaves have a distinct characteristic. The soil is very red there. The elevation, it's perfect, between 4,500 and 6,500 feet above sea level. You have distinctly warm summers, but are humid. You have fog lots of the year. Doesn't snow there ordinarily. So you've got a nice range. The soil, the pH of the soil is perfect for tea. And as a bonus, tea has grown there for thousands of years. And so the result is you still have ancient trees there. And you probably have about 40 acres worth of ancient trees in just the Nanoa area. So that's really a lot. And so you're thinking to yourself, and I will get to the question, you're thinking to yourself, okay, so somebody thousands of years ago, maybe Lao Tzu, maybe the founder of Taoism, sprinkled, tea seeds all over the place? The answer would be no. So this was a natural, evolutionarily grown tea tree. So squirrels, birds, they were the sprinklers, and it evolved. And so these trees in the deep heart of Nano are in a forest. They're not alone. They're with other plants. Yes.
Just a question about the name of the mountain again. Is it Nanoa?
No, it's Nannuo, two N's.
Great.
actually 3 N's when you count properly.
A-N-N.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
And so naturally, another question is going to come up, so I'll answer that one right now. What other non-no teas do we have in here? We have several, but the most famous, and that's the only one I'm going to mention, is a raw black Newman. Newman is from non-no. It was harvested in 2005, 2006. We have that in cake form here. Beautiful tea, and many people have that at the top of their top 10 list. All right, so this is what non-no gives you some sense of the physical terroir. What about the cultural terroir? Is it Han people? Is it indigenous people? Is it nice people? So I can answer the third one. Very definitely, very nice people. Hani people, Hani, and out of the Hani, there's a group called Aini, A-I-N-I. And so they live in this mountain. There are several villages, but Bampua is Laojai. That's the old village, and that's where the oldest source material is. And that's what we're talking about today with Arcadian. So, what other characteristics about non-no should you know about? So you remember I told you there's this place, Binga, ice island, literally, very famous for a number of years. Now, in circles that really know tea, in some ways infamous, because the villagers were talked into rebuilding their village there. And as they rebuilt it, they built closer to the trees. Runoff from the building has damaged many of the trees in this area. That's called infamous. In non-no, they actually had outsiders come in, and this would be scientists and engineers, and help them craft villages that were way far away and also were runoff that even if it occurred a little bit would run in the other direction. And so it's built a different way than some of the other villages. And non-no frequently doesn't get enough credit for not only that step, but the fact is that in some ways their old ancient treaty is the most accessible, and by the way, happens to be really good all in one at the same time. And so most accessible is relative, right? It's not like flying to Beijing. You can take a flight from San Francisco to Beijing. You cannot take a direct flight from San Francisco to non-no. You can't take a direct flight from anywhere to non-no. Non-no doesn't have airports. It is about 20 miles from the border of Burma. So from that standpoint, you have to travel a lot of roads to get there. However, when you get on the road that's going to climb up to the mountain of non-no, that road is pretty darn good. And in most places, two vehicles can pass one another. You don't have the heavy agricultural traffic that you have in some of the other places. It's just a different feel. And then you get up there. They built a wonderful, at the top of one of these mountains, they built a wonderful guest house. And this guest house is for the visitors who come, and then they serve them tea. Now with us, and the group we took there in 2019 will remember this, we go up the mountain, we get to this guest house, and the farmers right away give the boss the tea leaves and all the tea paraphernalia. They said, go ahead, we understand that you handle your tea in the Western way. And obviously that's big cup. And so, but they get it, and they are really interested, and they like watching us do it, and they've enjoyed the experience with us. In fact, of all the places we've ever been, they're the most understanding and curious about what we're doing. And like I said, when we show up, oh, here's everything. you do it. We want to watch and see, and then we want to taste it. So a different feel at this mountain. So we still haven't specifically got to Arcadian. You're probably wondering if I'm ever going to specifically get to Arcadian. I'm almost there. So let's do a little bit more history. So in the year 2000, the leaves from this area, and this would be whether it is spring pick or any other pick of the year, we're going for about, oh, I don't know, $6 a pound, something like that. In 2019, the leaves that were spring picked were going for about $2,000 a pound. The leaves picked from any other time of the year were going for about $800 or $900 a pound. We fall upon a realization now. Why is it that fewer farmers pick at any other time aside from spring? Because it is just not worth it. The money is in the spring. If you focus your resources in the spring, hey, I might become rich. And the answer is you will become rich because you, for the effort to get them. And by the way, non-Noah, it's still the local people hand-picking. Well, you have to hand-pick ancient tree, old and ancient tree, don't you? Because you got to climb up into those trees. But you only have to climb up once a year. That's a little false. Let me tell you what the little falsehood is that I just said. I have to because I'm wearing the linen today. The little falsehood was they actually do climb up into the trees later in the year, but that's to prune the trees, not to pick. They're not picking in this particular village later in the year. They're picking in spring because they're reaping the benefits. And like I said, they've rebuilt the whole village within the last 4 or 5 years. And it's beautiful. And the houses are nice houses compared to other places in Yunnan. Tea is the road. It's the road to a lot of places, but it's the road to wealth for people who own old and ancient trees. For us, it's the road to health and meditation and comfort. So now I'm just about ready to get to Arcadian. Let's see how long that actually took me. Oh, I have lots of time. All right. Arcadian comes from this village in Montclair. Normally, they don't do much red tea. They do some, but their gig is about fully fermented and particularly about rabat. That's where they really focus attention. But they have some small segment as a percentage that actually focuses on red tea. Let's do the basics. Is there red tea anything like Chiman or Darjeeling or the stuff in Sri Lanka, the uva red tea? Is it anything like that? Or is it anything like smoky pine? No. And are the procedures a little different? Yes. The procedures in non-Noah, as an outsider looking and objectively thinking about it, you would say, well, it seems simpler. It is simpler in the fact that it's fewer steps. Is it simpler in terms of judgments? No, you still have to be making really good judgments. So you pick, it's usually a bud and 3 leaves, you wither, that's a judgment thing. You wither for as long as you think it's going to be to get the moisture content down so you can manipulate the leaves. You then manipulate the leaves. We don't call it manipulation. We actually roll the leaves. That's the right term. You roll the leaves, you break down the cells, you try and get the juices and energies to the surface, and then you oxidize. So you put it away, It's held in some temperature in some room, usually around 80 to 90 degrees, because that's the fastest oxidation. Can we do this at home? I mean, this sounds so easy so far. Well, the answer is you could attempt to, but this becomes one gooey mass after you have rolled it. So there's that. Then you have to have space. Oh yeah, there's that. And when you oxidize, you're going to pile it. Well, can we just make one old big pile, maybe in the backyard? Answer is no, because you'll have a hard time controlling the rate of oxidation. Why in the world is it important to control the rate of oxidation? I mean, oxidation is oxidation. What is there? Fast oxidation, slow oxidation, bad oxidation, good oxidation? Well, there's not bad and good oxidation. There's just oxidation. And the rate at which it occurs produces a certain result. And as a farmer, you've got to use your history and lineage to understand what you're looking at. You have to use your nose to understand what you're smelling. What happens if you under oxidize? Well, usually you're going to get something that's extraordinarily tart. And sometimes it has some unpleasant flavors in it. A little bit of grassy when you don't expect grassy. That's an underoxidized. Almost no one makes that mistake because, I mean, the colors would just be too wrong. The over-oxidation, especially for newer farmers and for beginners, is the mistake. It's the main mistake. And over-oxidation results in a 4-letter word. This is a 4-letter word you should never, ever say to a farmer because they'll feel disappointed at a minimum. In China, they'll feel insulted. It's fighting words if you say that this tea tastes sour. That's not a good word. And that's why, by the way, as we go through these tea tastings, you know, it's just like garlic is out of bounds. Sour is out of bounds too. Tart is not out of bounds because some of the teas are tart and that suggests a fruitiness of some sort. But sour is positively out of bounds. And we've been in situations where when tea was delivered to us, a 4-letter word left our lips. And then we had to go back and get that stuff taken care of. So we've experienced that before when a farmer doesn't get it right, doesn't nail it right. Not in recent years. In recent years, everybody knows you can't just pass this off. You can't say, oh, that's a little accent. We'll just send that anyway. No, you can't send it here. You can send it to other places. You can't send it here. So those are the steps. Looks like I left out one, didn't I? Because you get through, you oxidize, what, and you just throw it in the bag and send it to your friends? Oh no, that would be very unpleasant because it's still very damp, very wet, and it would mold very quickly. So you have to bake it, and you have to bake it for 2 reasons. One, you have to get that moisture level down, and secondly, you have to stop the oxidation process. You must denature the oxidative enzyme. You don't do that, it's going to keep oxidizing. And even worse, it's going to mold. So those are the steps. They take those steps in Nano to do this tea. So the magic of this is grouping the tea from trees in relatively small batches. So they don't do one huge blend. Because they know, well, these trees are roughly 800 to 1,000 years old. We're gonna do this as separate batch. These trees are 1,300, 1,500. We're gonna do small. If any blending is to be done, it occurs later. It occurs at the end of the process. And if they do that, there's a specific reason, and that specific reason is, oh, I want this flavor to have a little bit more whatever, peach or whatever the flavor it's gonna be. And then at that point, sometimes they'll do blending. We know when we get these, because these farmers are very open with this. Like I said, these are some of the friendliest farmers we deal with. Where in the forest is this? Oh, they'll take us up to the forest. And by the way, I didn't explain this one part. To get to the forest by walking from where we have to drive as a starting point is an hour. So that's how far away it is from civilization, because it's all tea trees, it's all forest. Blessedly, they have done such a good job in protecting this environment. The tea from here for a long time, so long as global warming doesn't spoil the party, is going to be good. It's going to be great because the conditions to grow are so good. All right. Oh, yes. You all are thirsty. And it's time for us to take a 10-second break and then start going through the process of brewing. And for newcomers, as always, we'll brew first, demonstrate, and then everybody else will brew with everyone after we do the first one. All right, this is great. So, you're so lucky this morning, as every morning, that you get a chance to brew with us. And you're extraordinarily lucky because the tea master is in a great mood this morning. So that means whatever the result for us and for you is going to be great. So without further ado, it is such a pleasure to introduce the beautiful, good-mooded tea master, Biju.
Hi, good morning. 早上好. We do 红茶 is red tea. It's the red tea. So, yeah, I prepare the loose leaf. So I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I mistake putting the down the peak. But you can use it down the peak. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Same time, 3 minutes. But this 5 gram, 3 minutes. Down the peak is 4 gram, 3 minutes. 5 gram, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down the peak from the 祁门 factory. Okay.
So let me explain. This for all of you except one person. We got this right. For one of you, we inadvertently put in 2 Downy peaks. So that's what that explanation. The rest of you follow exactly the instructions that were sent out. So each bag number 1 labeled Arcadian, that has 5 grams and it's going to be 3 minutes. So as usual, heat the cups. We have 4 cups. You can have 2 cups, no problem. We do it because that helps us speed through the process. And when you heat the cups, you can use any temperature of water between 170 and 212. You can use full boiling to heat the cups. It does not matter. All you're trying to do is heat them and make sure that they're completely clean, no spots in them. And leave them at a temperature that when you put the dried leaves in, you'll get that heated effect. You'll get the first aromas. Beautiful tea. You notice Tea Master has rhythm. And the rhythm week to week doesn't change. And your rhythm, as you develop it and find it, should not change. This is so important because if you have a steady rhythm week to week, you're going to get steady results. You're going to get predictable results. Water is heated the cups. Gonna dissipate the steam. Aerate the water. You know, for us, this is such a fun process when we go through this. And even when it's private in here, nobody else is in here, we go through this exact same process because we enjoy this rhythm, this tea meditation rhythm, be present rhythm. So no hurry whatsoever. It's more like, let's get this right because we're about to enter tea time.
新的吗？有新的鱼吗？No.
第二次
OK.
继续上，他做录的，这是新的，对，录的是新的。
OK.
Oh, this looks like magic. It looks like we're gonna do 2 cups at one time. Wow, I'm excited. A little bit of different rhythm. You're only doing 1, by the way. That's all you have the leaves. All right, you're heating the leaves. You're gonna put the water back in the kettle if you have a spouted kettle. If you don't, then you'll pour directly from whatever you're using into the cup. We do that so we can pour on the side. This is a 3-minute steep. So there'll be things that, by the way, remember to take notes because I believe we have 6 weeks of reds. So you're going to be experiencing all sorts of different reds. And in this particular 3-week set, you're going to experience some very different reds. So one of the things right away, particularly when you're doing a tea like this, you're going to notice aroma. The aroma is actually quite potent for this. And that has to do, again, with where this comes from. The leaves are very distinctive here. And all of these mountainsides have distinctive leaves, even though they're all either old or ancient trees. So the terroir is that different. And if you were to draw a circle, say with Nano in the center, all the famous mountains are within 100 miles. Tea mountains are within about 100 miles of this. And each one has this very distinctive style. So you've heard us talk about Labanjiang, which is further, that would be further east. That style is very different, and the aromas would be very different. And by the way, they normally don't do a lot of red tea out there. So that's what's really different about Nanoa, because again, most of these mountains, so you talk about Iwu. Iwu does a little bit of red tea, but not really much. It's really concentrated on the fully fermented and the raw black. And so this is why we were so interested in the fact that they have a tradition to do a small portion in red tea. And historically, once they start doing that, a lot of it went to the Southeast Asia, and some went towards the Old Horse Road up towards Tibet. So Nano is in a position that from the Old Horse Road perspective, it was relatively easier to reach. And again, the path to Nano is relatively easier to reach. And so people who are looking for something really special tend to overlook Nano because it's so easy to reach. And that's a mistake. All right, the timer has gone off. Not in a hurry. Just with a steady rhythm, separating the tea leaves from the tea water. How beautiful. Okay. So, taking a look at color, look at this beautiful color. Nice yellowish amber color. We're going to enter, no, I am going to enter the quality arena, demonstrate how it's done. Take a 170-degree sip. We're going to look for stringency, mouthfeel, and energetics. Okay, I'm beginning to understand that. I'm going to take a second sip. And not only am I going to verify what I did the first time, I'm also going to start to think about aroma and taste. Remembering that this is a lower temperature, you can take a bigger taste, and that will influence your appreciation of the tea. Your turn to brew. You know, down here, and I think probably where you are, Aggie, I imagine it's raining where you are. This is a perfect tea for a cold winter morning. We're not in winter yet. Yes, I realize that. I should have said a cold fall morning, rainy.
Kathy observes that the dry leaves have a dried fruit aroma.
Ah, so Kathy leads us off. The dry leaves have dry, fruity aroma. Absolutely.
And Aggie agrees and says, yeah, maybe dried cherries.
Hey, I like that. So Aggie says, yeah, hints of dry cherry for her. And yeah, it is, in other words, these comments are indicating right away there's a reaction. When you heat the dried leaves and you're getting this hint of fruit, no question.
And he also says, yes on the ring.
That's what I thought, probably a lot. Okay. Note the rhythm Tea Master has. All right, Tea Master getting leaves out, put it in the heated cup.
So,
Remember to take good notes as you're doing this, because again, we're gonna have several of these. And she pours the water, sides of the cup, starts this steeping process. You should be doing the same. And part of what you can do is take a look at where the leaves are. Most of these, I think it was last week when we did satisfaction, they were in an aisle at the bottom. Look at these. Most of these are floating at the top. They go down to the bottom, come back up to the mothership up at top. It's really beautiful. Some of the ones at the bottom are standing. Fun tea to watch brew. Yes.
Jeremy says, I love the dangling leaves on top of the brownish amber broth. The giddy outlier leaves dancing on the bottom. Fresh warming sensations. And for the first time ever, minutes into my drink, there is a hint of caramel and a warmth radiating throughout my body.
Ah, this is great. So Jeremy kicks us off with the look and feel of the leaves as they are steeping, dancing leaves at the bottom of the cup, some returning to the mothership at the top. Just a beautiful aesthetic vision for this tea. And then she talks about hints of caramel, hints of anything else?
It's caramel and then the warmth.
Ah, the warmth, okay. A radiating hint of warmth from this. And again, I am so glad that we're doing this on this day, because it is an overcast day and it feels like it's the temperature's dropped a little bit. This is going to make you feel real comfortable. And this is a characteristic of red tea. TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, indicates that red tea in general is best off drunk during the winter, because it'll give you that feeling. Let me add a footnote to that. And the footnote to that is, since it's ancient tree, whether it's green, red, or white, goes against the normal advice, because green normally for summertime, because it's cooling, not any green that comes from or white, I should say, not any white that comes from ancient tree. The ancient tree white is actually turns out to be warming. So there's some element about what's in ancient tree leaves that also promotes warming and circulation. And so again, couldn't have matched up any more perfectly with the kind of day that this is. All right, your timer should be close, very close. Go ahead and separate the tea leaves from the tea water. Not in a hurry, getting every drop and getting every drop out of the leaves, separated from the leaves, because you get 2 more great steepings from these 5 grams. Yes.
Aggie says, I also got caramel aroma fruit leaves. And my first sips were so delicious, I forgot to pay attention to what I was tasting. Once I concentrated on the taste, instead of enjoyment, I detected a bit of buttery flavor with slight sweetness.
Oh, I love this description and I love this admission. She said, Aggie said, and thank you for that very much. She said when she first sipped it, she knows what the quality arena is supposed to be, but she forgot. And it was so good that it took her a second to register. Oh, wait a minute, I got to slow down and do this. And as she slowed down, hints of caramel in the aroma, and then at the end, sweetness and buttery. I love that description. Sweetness and buttery. It and actually her description makes you also realize that if you don't take presence, if you aren't present, you are going to gulp this down. It's that good, especially on a morning like this. Great comment, Aggie. So while you're thinking about this, most of these villages, Nano represents some exception to most of the villages in the mountains that we've seen. We saw more young people, particularly males up here, than at many of the other villages, because many of the other villages, they're off trying to start careers or trying to go to school in places that are outside of the village. Not here. You get the sense that more of the young people are staying here. And that could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's in that cycle of enrichment where it's like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, my life is set. I have a good future ahead of me. And in that regard, by the way, there is this tug and push and pull about how much new technology should I integrate into what I'm doing. Yes.
Stacy says, underneath the caramel, I'm also getting hints of stone fruit. So different from the dried fruit in some of the initial comments. Also, I want to gulp it down. It's so fabulous.
Great. Stacy reinforces this idea that let's drink this. Your body tells you, I want this now. Stop tasting, stop fooling around, just get it in me. So it's that good. And she notes an underlying hint of stone fruit under the caramel, and that stone fruit for her is something a little different from cherries. And I get the cherries, but I also get what else you might be tasting, because I have something else in mind as the stone fruit that this seems to represent to me. Yes.
Kathy says, smooth and juicy, soft astringency in the aftertaste.
Smooth and juicy from Kathy, soft astringency in the aftertaste. Great catch on that astringency. It is soft. Not only is it soft, I think as we drink this down, you're going to also find that it kind of lingers as well. Both things. Very good. Yeah.
Peter says, from waking the leaves to brewing to the tea water, the aroma just kept refining. I wouldn't have expected the subtleness of the tea from the warmed leaves. I find the tea not intrusive at all, very ethereal in a way. Took some moments to feel the warmth as it radiates from the center of my torso. And I feel that warmth in my arms, almost as if I was holding them next to a warm fire.
Great comment, Peter, particularly focusing on the energetics. So warmth radiating from in out to the arms. I get that. I actually right now have it at the tricep level, and I definitely have it in the center of my my torso, and it's very, very distinct. What was the first part of what he
First
said?
part was that, from waking the leaves to brewing to the tea water, the aroma kept refining, and he
Ah.
wouldn't have expected the subtleness of the tea from the warmed leaves.
So Peter makes a great observation because the warm leaves say, oh, here I am. And here's what it's going to be. And then you have an impression. They kind of sing a siren song to you. You think, okay, I know what this is going to be. And then you drink it. No, I don't. There is so much subtlety in this tea. And there is subtlety in this tea. This is old tree tea where the groves are very carefully maintained. You get all those flavors. The farmers, these guys always seem to me to be happy. Year in and year out, we go up there. You go to some places, some years they're happy, some years they're not happy. This place, they're always happy. Has to be partially because of this tea. Yes.
Jeremy asked whether you have a map of the area mountains.
So Jeremy makes a correct evaluation. She said, you must have gotten up a little later this morning because you didn't send us a morning map as you normally do. Can you rectify that moving forward? And the answer is, of course, I'll rectify that. I actually thought about sending a map, but then I distracted myself in looking at something else and no. So for next week, when we do Downey Peak, I'll send you a map both of where Nano is and a map of where Chiman is. So you'll have both things side by side. Okay. Oh, and I'm almost done anyway.
Little follow-up here from Jeremy. There is so little astringency. A tiny bit emerged. This really exemplifies what you said about ancient tree tea's complexity.
Great comment, Jeremy. There is very little astringency. It's like the more ancient it is, all the covering for the subtleties of the tea dissipate. And so all you're left with, this is a great all. I said it as if it's a bad all. What you are left with is the subtleties of the tea accessible right away. This is the quality of ancient tree. When you're drinking ancient tree, you better slow down because you catch those subtleties and it's like, oh my God, this is worth every cent. Yeah. All right. I am always lucky week by week because I get you. And all of you have such great comments. I knew you'd be in for a nice surprise. Oh, and you know what? I teased you just about 3 minutes ago, talking about this balance of technology and tradition. Next week, I will talk about this at length because Chiman is more about technology today, although they have a small segment of tradition. This is an area, Arcadian or Nanoa is an area where they're still very traditional, but now they're also thinking about, well, maybe we can integrate some technology into this. So you have this contrast, and I'll talk about that next week. Like I said, I have all of you. It's always great to spend Saturday morning with you. I learned so much. Yes.
The last comment from Aggie, gently energizing as I drink down into the cup. Lovely.
Love that comment, Aggie. Gently energizing. Another characteristic of ancient tree. It isn't like picking up Monster. You pick up that energy drink and it's like, oh, I'm wiped out. This you get that buildup, much as Peter said, you know, the warming spreading out. As Aggie says, the energizing, and it's a gentle energizing. Great catch on that. What are you supposed to do this week? Well, it's raining. You're supposed to take care of yourselves. And one other thing that the tea master just reminded me, we have people from the Chinese tea industry coming tomorrow. So we will close sharply at 1 because we need to entertain them. So just as a heads up for those who are going to come on Sunday. All right. Be healthy this week. Next week, I wonder what mountain we're going to go to. I assume we'll be on another mountain. Maybe we'll have kind of a downy peak mountain. Oh, that's what we are going to have. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.